Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We've had an amazing day. It has been such an amazing, emotional, wonderful, happy, glorious. I can add so many other words. That applause is for all of you. As we get into this last part of the evening's presentations, I do have to say we had a wonderful opportunity to share some time with our brothers and sisters over this last week that have come to visit with us, to share with us, to stand with us, to sing with us, and to rejoice with us. And now I'm going to call upon Archbishop Don to come forward and to give us a presentation of our relatives from the other side. And now I fully realize that their time zone is just a little bit different from ours. And so when we're all ready to go and just getting started, they're ready to shut down. And so but like I said, we celebrate that they're with us. And I am so honored, so glad, and so proud to be able to say that we welcome all of you, our brothers and sisters, our relatives, and we look forward for your word, and at the same time for this presentation. So I'm going to get out of the way, and you take it from here. God bless.
Hei katuhi kararapa kauira te rangi e tui ho nei e toea te waka. Te utanga o runga ko te aroha, paihere tia mai, te rangi maari e au e hi. Tuhia ki te rangi, tuhia ki te whenua, tuhia ki te ngākau o te tangata hea te mea nui o te ao, ko te aroha. Write it in the heavens, write it upon the earth, inscribe it on our hearts. What is the greatest thing in the world? It is love, it is love, it is love. Ko tērā te aroa te atu e tui nei a tātou katoa a I tēnei aiahi pō. The love in which we are formed, the lives of love that we lead, the love that flows from the source of all love, the love of God that binds us and unites us are here together. Ai ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā kārangaranga maha, te iwi kāinga, ngā mana whenua, ngā iwi take, tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou, nei rā te mihi. To the people of this land, the people of this space, we greet you, we acknowledge you, we thank you. Te ati pihope Chris, nei rā te mihi. Te ati pihope Linda, nei rā te mea tu ki a koe. Te kāhui pihopa, te kāhui minita, te whānau te kraiti. Nei rā te mea tu ki a koutou katoa, Archbishop Chris, Archbishop Linda, bishops, fellow clerics, and all of us lesser mortals. We greet you, we acknowledge you, we thank you. Mihi tonu mai, whakatau mai, ai tēnei te pihopa o Aotearoa. Tō tātou i āti pihopa, me tana ope kua tau mai nei, ai tēnei wā. Thank you for welcoming us, for extending hospitality and your love to our Bishop of Aotearoa, to our Archbishop, and to this group. Hoi anō, koe kurangi te maunga ko Aiapu Taua ko Ngāti Parau te iwi, a ko mai ko Tamerea hau. He kurangi is my mountain, Waiapu is my river, and I am Michael Tamihere. And it's my privilege to acknowledge everyone this evening, to greet you and to thank you, but I will leave it to each of our ope, our group in turn, in the parts they have to play, to introduce themselves. Nā reira, huri noi te whare, tēnā koutou, tēnā hui mai nei tātou katoa. Kia ora.
Tēnā tātou te whāne. My name is Ruawhai Tere Ngātai Mahue, and I work at the Plenary Theological College in Gisborne on the North Island of New Zealand. Wonderful to be here. We've enjoyed every part of it, and the learning has been absolutely wonderful. Nā reira, thank you all.
Kia ora, my name is Jamie Antirikia. I'm from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I work for Bishop Don as a visual communications advisor for Te Pihopatanga o Aotearoa. And I've loved my time here, and I'd like to give a little bit of a mihi to someone special that I've met so far. Us Māori kids from New Zealand like to adopt aunties and uncles, so I'd like to give a mihi, an acknowledgement to Uncle Larry out there with the fire, who took the time to sit down and talk with us and share a lot of his life with us. So yeah, so grateful for that, and yeah, ngā mihi.
Kia ora te whānau. My name is Kirby Beach. I am the EA to Archbishop Don. Luckily for me, I have a wonderful job, although sometimes I don't think he thinks I'm that wonderful. And really honoured to be here today, this week, and share this special time with you all. Thank you very much for having us. We are very grateful, and we have learnt a lot from everybody, and have really enjoyed meeting a various number of you whilst we've had meals as well. So thank you very much.
Kia ora everyone, my name is Danielle Tamihiri. I am Don's daughter. I actually work as a nurse in our small town on the east coast of New Zealand. I'm very happy to be here. It's nice travelling some 14,000 kilometres away and not feeling like a foreigner. Coming here and seeing people that look just like our aunties and uncles and nannies and papas at home. So yeah, it's lovely to be here.
Tēnā tātou, ko Verona mai ana, pūtara nui ahau. I am Verona, and I am Communications Manager for Te Pihopatanga o Aotearoa for Archbishop Don. Hence why I was sat over there. I was still going to do my job. Anyway, thank you so much for being so warm and welcoming. It's my first time in Canada, and this has been a great experience so far. Ngā mihi kia koutou.
Righto, e te whānau. Now, you'll probably notice that we always drop in our Māori words here, there and everywhere. That's because we can't think of the English ones. We grew up only learning te reo Māori, and if we go on in te reo Māori, just pretend like you'll know what we're going on about. Ka pai, just go, ka pai. So what I'm going to do, see, I've just done it again. So what I'm going to do with you all is I'm going to take you through some warm-ups, some vocal warm-ups that we do at home, just to get everyone moving a bit. I know you just had dinner, so I might get you all just to sit down like that, okay? Okay, all right. Our first exercise, I want to get you all to stand up. Everyone just go like this. Nice. Like this. Up there. If you can't stand up, just stay sitting down. Like, and sitting down.
Tahi, rua, toru.
Tēnā koe rua. E te āti piopa e Chris, tēnā koe. Kia koutou i ngā piopa, i ngā minita e te whānau te kaiti, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko hukirangi te maunga, ko Waipu Taua, ko Ngāti Porou te iwi, ko Hirini ka ahau. Yes, Waipu is my ancestral mountain. Waipu is my sacred river. Ngāti Porou are my proud people, and I am Hirini ka. And it is a huge honour and a pleasure to be here this evening with you and over these days to listen, to share, to be part of this sacred circle, to wānanga, and to share mātauranga. My role, I'm Archbishop Don's Archdeacon for mātauranga, and we'll come back to that term as we go through our quick kōrero this evening. And I hope you're regretting those Sundays after that exercise before, so I wish I could regret it also. We're from Ngāti Porou, some of us, that's our tribe, that's our nation. Ngāti Porou are famous for two things. One, the sense of our own eloquence. And secondly, our tremendous humility. No one is more humble than we are. So those two things combined, I'm looking at Archbishop Chris. He said, yes, you've got an hour, and we'll try and stick to that hour the best we can. But we love the sound of our own voices. So it's, again, a pleasure and honour to be here tonight. We have thought about what we were going to share tonight several times, listening to the talk as it's gone. I'm doing it as one, trying not to use Māori language. Listening to the talk, listening to the amazing conversation, and thinking what our contribution might be, and sharing some of our story, we thought was a place to start. I have a PhD in history, which all that meant was my family still asked me if I'd get a real job, and I said, no, I'm going to work for the church. My father was a minister, and he's been to these sacred circles, hone ka. My grandfather was a minister. Either we're all called by God, or I lack imagination. So it's a real pleasure and honour to be here again with you tonight. I'm going to start at the beginning with our creation story. In the beginning was te kore, the nothingness, followed by many stages of nothingness came te pō, the darkness. And in the darkness there was energy and chaos. And out of that chaos, the Creator found form. And the form was Ranginui, the Sky Father, and Papa Tuanuku, the Earth Mother. And they came together in an embrace as two. And they loved one another. And between them, in this embrace, they had children. They had these children between them. And the children grew. And the children, as children do, started having a sense of their own potential. And they needed space and light, and they separated their parents. They separated the Earth Mother and the Sky Father, pushed them apart. And then they went on to form creation, the forests, the seas, the living things between them all. This is te orokohanga o te ao, the creation of the earth, the beginning of light and life. This is our story. This is one way we understand creation for us. What is the meaning of this story that I want to share with you tonight? It has many meanings. There is much to that story. But one meaning that we've been hearing from you, it is our sacred circle, because we all descend from this. We are connected to every other human, and we are connected to all living creation, because we all descend from this. Every tree, every fish, every bird, every rock, because we don't define living the same way the West does. Every mountain, every human is connected together in what you might call a sacred circle. That is our creation story. That is the story that our ancestors held. And there are many implications of that story. We are therefore, all of creation is sacred because it descends from this creation. And to tarnish, to damage creation is to impinge on its sacredness, and it must be restored. We've heard similar from you over the past couple of days. We're going to share where we see the gospel in this as we go through our kōrero as well. But this is our beginning. This explains a lot about us, about how we relate to one another and to you, how we see the world. It is our world view. And as we've heard even this morning, when the gospel arrived and its message, our ancestors could see themselves, see this story in that story. It was easy for them. This word mātauranga, can you say mātau? Ranga. Yeah, we roll our R's. So mātau, ranga. So mātauranga. Ka pai, excellent. You're much better than Pākehās at home. This isn't being recorded, is it? Can we edit it, Archbishop, later? That'd be great, thank you. Oh no, they know. They know what our jokes. Our mātauranga, our worldview, started about 6,000 years ago. We are young compared to many of you. In Australia, the people there have been living there for 60,000 years uninterrupted, except for the last 200, which have been terrible. So we are just children. But 6,000 years ago, our ancestors left Southeast Asia and they set out on a journey across much of the globe, across the water. Why did they do that? That's one of our key questions for ourselves. They just had this something, kept pushing them on, calling them on. In our arrogance, we keep saying, well, they hadn't discovered our land yet, so that's why they needed to keep going. But this is our journey, and across that journey, we developed our worldview. Our art, our literature in its own form, our philosophy, our science. You know how hard it is to sail across that Pacific? You need to be able to read the stars, to read the sea, to talk to the sea life, to read the seas, to know the winds, to speak to the winds. This is what you need to do that journey. That's our science, and it is strong. And we arrived in Aotearoa, New Zealand, as the settlers call it, Aotearoa, the place of the long white cloud. And there we established whare wānanga, great places of learning. Because we were in a new environment, we had to keep learning. They are our universities. They are the places of deep knowledge for us. And we built and grew and evolved our mātauranga based on the whenua, on the land that we encountered. This is the environment which the gospel arrived in, which the missionaries arrived in. They didn't arrive to a blank canvas or an empty vessel. They arrived to a 6,000-year inheritance of ways of knowing and of being. Mātauranga, Māori knowledge complete with its values and attitudes. These are some of our greatest scholars. Not only Māori knowledge, but also the Māori way of knowing. Not just how to make that sailboat, but why would you make it? Why would you make that journey? What's compelling you to make that journey? What underpins and gives point and meaning to our knowledge? And also, it's different from tribe to tribe. Ours is obviously the superior version, but others try very hard. Again, our humility. And then, in 1814, it's a long story, we went looking for something. We went to Sydney, to Australia. We went looking as soon as we could. We knew these other people were out there. We knew what they had, but we wanted more because we're a very inquisitive exploration people. And then 1814, the gospel arrives in our midst and is shared with us and starts its dissemination, starts its passage, its journey through our people. And I just want to share the good news, te rongopai. I just want to share an example of how that worked, and there's a point to this. That figure there is Piripi Taumā Tākura, our ancestor. He brought the gospel to our people. His journey was unique, and he brought the word amongst our people. He returned to us from captivity. He'd been taken slave by my wife's people. Everyone love your in-laws? They're good people. So they'd taken him captive. He'd returned with this new message of hope into our midst. He returned in 1834. In our story, there were no white missionaries present through this process. Very important point for us. This was not a white missionary endeavour for us. This was us sharing the word with ourselves through our mātauranga, through our worldview. It is our story. Here's a number for you, some numbers for you to consider. These are from the missionary records. These are Anglican missionaries who were the majority of missionaries in New Zealand at this time. There are also Wesleyans and Catholics. In 1834, there were 6 European missionaries and no official native clergy or native agents, right? That's according to their records. 1844, 12 European missionaries and 300 native agents. And by 1854, 23 white missionaries, 1 native clergy, Rota Waitoa, and between 440 and 558 Māori evangelists. When our people ask us or challenge us about how that word was spread, we like to reply with evidence. We spread it amongst ourselves. The vast majority of evangelism amongst our people was by our people, from ourselves to ourselves. A very important point for us. So how did that work? Our tribal story, Taumā Tākura. In Māori is our recording of this story. And this is a translation of it. I just want to give you a couple of samples. So he arrives back with others from captivity, starts sharing the gospel. Women were lacerating. This is at a funeral, at a traditional funeral practice. For us, it's not the stiff upper lip at our grieving. The more signs of grief, the better. Tears, mucus are all gifts from God. Wailing, bereavement, the more the better for us. That is our tradition. And it came to the point where you would cut yourself to show your grief. Women were lacerating their skin and the blood was flowing, a sign for Māori of the expression of grief. Piripi, the evangelist's colleagues, said to them, "You must not lacerate your skin lest you shed blood." It's an important part of the story for us. We're saying to ourselves, these practices, these ancestral practices of ours, are they life-giving? Are they all life-giving? And the ability to critique ourselves was important in this process. This is not a white missionary telling us not to do it. This is us saying to ourselves, is this really the best for us? Just having the confidence for ourselves to engage with this kōrero. Because we've had 200 years of Pākehā, of white people, telling us what's wrong with us. But we also want to acknowledge within our story, we had the ability to critique ourselves in this as well. It's an important point. Despite all the preaching of Taumā Tākura, the tohunga, the experts, the keepers of knowledge, were still looking to their gods and prophetic signs. And they were so deeply embedded in their own practices, it would be hard to change them. You know, conversion, particularly in Western literature, is treated as like a Harry Potter moment. Like, the gospel, like, ta-da, you're different people. You're no longer who you were, you're now Christian. And by that they mean you're going to lose eventually all your native traditions and culture and language. The first white person who brought the gospel to New Zealand brought a shoemaker with him. He believed that you couldn't be Christian until you were wearing shoes. That's actually what he believed. You couldn't be Christian until you were English. We've had this amongst ourselves. We continue our cultural practices and we are Christian, as we've seen here. We are confident about that. We have never doubted ourselves about that. We've been told to doubt ourselves, but we never have. This is a key moment. We used to eat one another. My wife's people used to eat my people. That's what I tell her. I don't acknowledge that we used to eat her people too. The historian gets to tell the tale. I mean, come on. And this is the speech. They were about to enter into a battle, and this evangelist says, if your enemy falls in battle, you must not eat him. You must not remove any articles from the dead, be the gun, ammunition, clothes, weapon, anything from the bodies in this battlefield. Let them retrieve their own dead, lest you be cursed by God. This is a key moment for us. We made a choice to give up kai tangata, the eating of human flesh. We made the choice because it wasn't life-giving. Again, we haven't ever wanted to talk to Pākehā about this because they take it the wrong way. But, you know, it requires a confidence on our part to think about ourselves in this way. What the gospel introduced to us, it gave us a critique. And yet we kept it at our core, we are still who our ancestors were. Just an important point, we thought, for ourselves, something we grapple with. And Taumā Tākura, he shared scripture and he reworked it. He'd talk Old Testament stories and he put my wife's people in the place of the Egyptians or whoever the enemy were. He wasn't very subtle with it. But the Bible became a key part of our narrative. And Archbishop Don is the leading biblical scholar from our land. And hearing him talk about this is amazing. Instead you get me, the silver show, but it's all right. Okay. And we were Anglican because Taumā Tākura was essentially Anglican, Church Missionary Society. And immediately we wanted a bishop. Yeah, we wanted clergy, but we don't settle for second best. We wanted a bishop as soon as we knew about bishops. We said, we want that thing. That's us, straight away. In the 1880s, we were publicly demanding bishops. The gospel arrived in 1814. The church, the settler church, was established in 1857. We built the original church. They took it off us, built their own on top of what we'd built, took all the power, and we still wanted ours. We wanted a bishop. In 1926, we'd constantly demanded a bishop. In 1926, we pushed our case. We said, we want a bishop for Māori, for the whole of Aotearoa. This is just a snippet of the debate we had, and I think it's very instructive. The translation by this great leader, Kingi Tahiwi, it is not Pākehā or white knowledge that is required to create this Māori diocese, but the knowledge, the wisdom, and the nature of Māori. This was a constant demand. What happened in 1926? Pākehā gave in to our pressure. 1926, they said, all right, you can have a bishop. They can have a diocese. They can have a delegation to General Synod. They can have all the trusts that you owned, all the resources. You can have it all. And we were like, thanks be to God. And they said, there's just one condition. And we thought, of course there is. And they said, the one condition is this bishop has to be a Pākehā, a white person, because none of you are capable. And we said, no, we'd rather have nothing, thank you. And we spent the next 2 years locked in combat with them, with the House of Bishops, because they chose them. They were making these demands, with the Pākehā Church. This is the 1920s. Our people had almost disappeared by the 1890s. Disease, poverty, we had 5% of our land left. When the gospel arrived, we had 100%. We were on the edge of extinction. By the 1920s, we were recovering, but we were the poorest, and we remained the poorest, the most marginalised. And yet, we were still going to fight them over this, because it was too important to us. Leading our fight was this man, Apirana Ngata. He's our great leader from Ngāti Porou. He was a member of parliament, a government minister, a scholar, a farmer. He was absolutely amazing. He's on our $50 bill in New Zealand now, recognised as a great leader across New Zealand. And he led the fight against the Pākehā Church, against the settler church. In the end, based on his solo, unsupported speech to General Synod, they said, all right, You can have a Māori as the bishop. Imagine what he was like to get them to change. You can have a Māori, but they said, no money, no diocese, suffragan to that diocese. So, completely disempowered. From their point of view, like, ha ha ha. And Apira Ngata said, we asked for a Māori bishop without any of this paraphernalia, without mana, which is our concept of kind of leadership greatness, except the mana whakapapa. That is the leadership quality derived from your ancestors, which to the Māori church is the supreme test of a bishop's status. We read this through our own mātauranga. We said, this is a victory for us in our worldview. Yes, we lost by a Pākehā worldview, but we took it. And we took it as a huge victory for ourselves. It wasn't taking what's on the table. It wasn't a negotiated win. It was a win according to our worldview. And that bishop was our bishop. We didn't care what the Pākehās called him. He was our bishop. And that's all that mattered. This is him, Frederick Bennett. The Pākehās appointed him. Apira Ngata wasn't a big fan of his. Ngata said of Frederick Bennett, he was from another tribe. He said he suffers from that tribe's weakness of succumbing to Pākehā flattery. I just want to quote that as a dig at that tribe. We got him, right? But we thought, he might be a bit moderate. He tends to give in to them, all those things. And he was amazing straight away. And this is one of his things he put forward. He's saying to our people, you must be strong in seeking people to be ordained as clergy. Great is the distress at the thought of our young Māori who are coming to be educated at the College of St. John's in Auckland. They closed our Māori Theological College. They didn't like the use of our language and worldview. They made them all go to the monocultural seminary. Does this sound familiar? Anyway. Must be educated at the College of St. John's in Auckland. It's not that the students are wrong, but the thing is, the power of assimilation of our young people coming out of there and their inability to conduct worship in a Māori form. Therefore, I returned to the village of Te Raukaikatea, our own theological college, which we'd had for 40 years. Indeed, to the great place of our secondary schools. Our church residential schools were made by us and for us. They were happy stories. They are happy stories for us. We reflect on what's happening here. We share some of our differences. But he's arguing in 1928, they are trying to assimilate us. We will resist that. We will continue to seek our own self-determination in terms of our theological education. And remember, he was only a suffragan, but none of us cared. It was the mana, our worldview, determined his greatness. And then the last part of the story, far from the last part of the story. We're jumping ahead here 64 years to 1992. And there's a lot going on in between there, don't doubt me. We thought about leaving the church, we did all sorts of things. Te Pauhere. In 1992, we established a revised constitution for the entire church in New Zealand. It was a combination of things, everything from the anti-nuclear movement to neoliberalism to our Treaty of Waitangi, our one treaty across Aotearoa, and the establishment of a tribunal that was understanding what had been happening and the work of historians. It was all working in a really potent mix. And the Anglican Church said, all right, let's revise the Constitution. In 1992, we passed a revised constitution, Te Pauhere. Pauhere, the post that binds, the post that ties. Christ is Te Pauhere, the one who holds us together. We arranged ourselves into 3 streams or tikanga. Pākehā, Māori and Polynesia, because we include Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, the islands in the Pacific. Each of these streams are autonomous. We maintain a common life. We still have our General Synod, but essentially we all have a veto in General Synod over any legislation. So we are significantly smaller than the Pākehā Church still, but it's not based on numbers. We get to veto, we get to move, we have our own archbishop, our own primate. Our bishops can ordain as they see fit. We have shared guidance and rules and safety, but that guidance, for example, is essentially about discipline. It doesn't say what's required of qualifications. We make our own understandings around that. This has been our constitution for 30 years now. We've had full autonomy within our church. And this is an important point. You choose which cultural stream you are in. So there are lots of Māori Ao people in the Pākehā stream. There's about 3 Pākehā in the Māori stream. And there are some that's a joke, but you can work it out yourself. And but that's kind of the truth. And there are, so every parish, you're Māori, you're Pākehā. You go with them, you go with them. Every church. That was what happened in 1992. But we keep our common life, and it's choice. You choose in which way you're going to understand, worship God within our Anglican traditions and settings. That's up to you. That is Te Pauhere, our constitution. 30 years later, well, Archbishop Don's going to talk to you shortly. There's a lot to learn. Obviously it was liberation for us. It was amazing. The resourcing wasn't there, obviously. I described it to someone yesterday as a divorce. We got to take anything we could carry. And they kept the house and the car and the boat and the land. And all that wealth was based on our land. So anyway, we've been talking to them about that non-stop. And that's changing significantly. But also, there were really unexpected outcomes of this. And you know what I'd say in 2023? You know who's facing the biggest challenges now? Are the Pākehā. They don't know who they are. They don't know what it means to be Pākehā, to be a settler church, because they understand the history. And now they're turning to us for identity, for guidance. They want to learn our language. They want to know our ways. And that's accelerating at a rapid pace. This is a picture of Archbishop Don's installation as Archbishop. This is him doing a haka. He's not going to do one tonight. The best we can give you is a photo. You've got to pay more, really. No, I'm just kidding. It was an 18-hour trip, and we still don't have the energy for a haka. It requires a lot of energy. But this was his expression of our mātauranga at his installation. It was the most wonderful occasion. And it was us being who we are as Anglicans, as Indigenous Anglicans, at its height. Look at the Victorian dress. Look at the crozier. Look at the haka. We can do it all. And Pākehā, remember, I'm just a warm-up act. He's still coming. It's great. And I just got told to shush. But this is the fruits of our old people's aspirations, hopes, dreams, in the face of great oppression. So, to be with you today, to be present as you take these steps, to just be witness to history, is a gift to us, a gift from God, a gift from you, and we just thank you for that. So now I'll pass you over to Archbishop Don. Tēnā koutou, thank you very much. Kia ora.
tēnā rau atu koutou te whānau, ko Don Tamihere tōku ingoa, ko Hukurangi te maunga, ko Waipu te awa, ko Ngāti Porou te iwi. My name's Don Tamihere. I too am from Ngāti Porou. Hukurangi is my sacred mountain. Waipu is the sacred river of my people. I'm very proud and privileged and humbled to be here among you. My people are a people of acknowledging. We always pay attention to the sacred that surrounds us. So I want to acknowledge some of that is here. To all of you, those of you that represent your tribal nations scattered far and wide across this beautiful country. Nei rā te tino mihi rawa tu kia koutou. I just want to acknowledge you and the sacred that you protect and that you guard and that you nurture from amongst your people. A few others that I know. Rosella, it's lovely to see you again, Bishop. That I know. Rosella, it's lovely to see you again, Bishop. And thank you for making your way out to our country to acknowledge the ordination of the first female Māori bishop in the world, Bishop Waitohi Ariki Koil. So I really want to acknowledge the fact that your presence meant so much and that you brought much of this sacred circle there to us. We are a people that put great stock in the idea of somebody turning up. We say kanohi kitea, a face that is seen, not just on Zoom, but in person. So I just really wanted to acknowledge you, Bishop. Also to Bishop Adam and to Caroline, who made their way out to my installation, and you got to see that haka in real life. It was a deep privilege and an honour to have hosted you, and again, to feel the presence of what you represent amongst our people, knowing that our ancestors, our elders had spent the energy and the time required to come here and to be with you. To have that returned to us was an extraordinary privilege, and I really want to acknowledge that. A few of the others that I have had an opportunity to touch base with. Archbishop Greg, I just want to single you out. Archbishop Greg and I and some others were members of pre-Lambeth Bible study, which was exciting as it sounds on occasions. But I was really touched to have been included within that group somehow with so many from this beautiful country. But Archbishop Greg, you did say something, and I think it's the only thing I remember from those Bible studies. And we ended up talking about the future of the Anglican communion. What does the future of the church look like? And everybody had their own answers. And Archbishop Greg said, I believe the future of the Anglican Church in Canada is Indigenous. Yeah. And as I said, Archbishop Greg, we put great stock in the fact of people turning up. So I know you are a man of your word to see you here, showing face and spending time at Sacred Circle. So I just really wanted to acknowledge you too, as well. Two others, though, that I want to make a special acknowledgement to. Archbishop Linda, just to acknowledge you and your role in this church, but also the role that you hold within the Anglican Communion. Both you and Archbishop Marines, I'm scanning the room. Marines, there you are, who I had the pleasure of meeting along with her husband Paulo in 2019, when a group of bishops from around the Communion joined together on pilgrimage in the Holy Land in Israel. And my wife Kisa was there with us, and of course Bishop Lydia was there with James, and Bishop Andrew Asville with Mary, and it was quite an incredible group. But Archbishop Marines was a mere bishop at the time, freshly ordained and installed in the Diocese of Amazonia, which I think is the coolest diocesan name in the world. And since that time, interrupted by COVID as we've been, Archbishop Marines, of course, was chosen by the people and by God to become Archbishop and Primate of the Church in Brazil. Archbishop Marines and Archbishop Linda are the only two female primates in the world. In a house of primates, there are other female archbishops, of course, but the only two archbishops and primates are Marines and Linda. In a house of about 41, 42 of us, I think I remained just barely, after 5-6 years, the youngest still. Just barely, I think by a matter of months now. I was 45 when I entered that house. You do the maths, I'm older than that now. But I think it speaks very poorly of us that we have not achieved a greater representation of female leadership within that house, the very upper echelon of that bureaucracy within the Anglican Communion. And so your voices are incredibly important to us. You do carry not only the weight of women within our church, but the additional burden and blessing of speaking on behalf of the Indigenous. Archbishop Martinez, I know you are utterly committed to that because of the makeup of your diocese, and I know from experience and from fact that Archbishop Linda has done the same. She's been a faithful representation of the needs of the Indigenous within that house. So, Archbishop Martinez, Archbishop Linda, could I invite you just to come to the front here? You'll be met by two of our Māori princesses. We have a small gift, a token from our people, from our land. The precious stone of our people is we call pounamu. It's a form of jade that we fashion into things like jewelry. Pounamu is formed in our sacred rivers. It is a river rock, so it carries with it the flow of our waters and also the flow of the spirits of our people. We offer this to you in humility and recognition of what you carry for the world, let alone your own diocese, your own church. And we want you to know that the love and the affection of the people in our land, our ocean, is with you. So, nē rā te mihi kia kōrua. Okay. We'll bless with song, shall we, Rua? Thank you. Please be seated. This feels like a service now. That song, by the way, Archbishops, is the song of the angels in Luke chapter 2. Archdeacon Hirini shared with you a little bit of our journey. Some of you I know here are very familiar with that. It's the reason that so many of you reach out to us to compare notes about how it's all going in the land of colonization. And that journey for us has been so similar in our view to yours. We know that the burdens and the challenges that you carry and face are the same that our ancestors have carried and faced. And so much of what the Spirit of God is inspiring among us is the same in terms of a response that has to do with the gospel amongst us. The gospel holds ever before us the principles of forgiveness and reconciliation and redemption and healing and light and love, the things that our people need. We need to be critiqued and held to standard by that same light, but it also compels us to be bearers of that light in every relationship that God is calling us to commit to and to nurture and to protect. There's so much about our journey that is the same. And as Hirini has shown, that journey has brought us to the place that we're in. Not everything that we've achieved has come to our full hope and full aspiration. So much of it is imperfect and compromised and unfinished. But I think the important thing for us is that we continue to do the work. and we continue to be tenacious, and we continue to not give up, and we continue to have hope, and we continue to be patient, and we continue with the trust that the seed that God calls us to plant will grow, and that will become a mighty tree, and that it will bear fruit, not only for our generation, but for generations yet to come, many of whom we will never see. So we must continue to have faith, because God is at the center of this, and Christ is at the center of this. And as some of you spoke, we've heard that Christ has taken place at the center of your prayer wheel, of the four beautiful colors, the four winds, the four directions of the earth. We need to get to know that Christ a little bit better, don't we? But we need to remind ourselves that Christ is not so different to you and I as Indigenous people. It's become a mantra of sorts for myself and for others within our province, that we need to live back into the truth that Jesus is an Indigenous child. And for some, that's a shocking declaration, but it's a simple truth. Jesus never spoke a word of English. Jesus never set foot in a Christian church one single day of his life. Luke chapter 4 said it was his custom to be found in the synagogues of his people, in the ancient ancestral gathering places of worship and prayer. Jesus never read a single word of the New Testament. And it's true. And as an Old Testament scholar, that makes me happy. In fact, reading the Old Testament, I would like to say, is a way of getting to know Jesus better, because it was those ancestral proverbs that Jesus learned. It was those ancestral prophecies, those ancestral hymns and songs, that history that he was steeped within. He learned the stories of his people. And when he was crucified and suffering the greatest trauma of his life, it was the words of those songs that returned to his lips, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. It's not a theological declaration, it's the first line of a song of his people, because it came from his heart. He was, at the depth of his heart, an Indigenous person. He grew up at a time of brutal Roman colonization and followed in a long line of his people who tried to fight back against the might of empire, from the time of Pharaoh to the time of Pontius Pilate and beyond. The message has been the same. We must not be a people that seek to control and dominate others. We must be a people that seek to set others free. And when the gospel is in the hands of the colonizer, in the hands of empire, the gospel becomes a tool for brutal oppression. But when the gospel is in the hands of the Indigenous, it becomes a tool for beauty and creativity and life and liberation, which is why it's so important that you continue your journey. Be careful, you make me feel like I should take up an offering at some point. You must continue your journey. You must continue your journey. That's why we made the journey to be here with you today. All this way to, in effect, spend but a few short hours with you, really. But every minute, every second has been incredibly important to us, because we wanted to, by our presence, show you that we are here to support you, that we are here to journey with you, that you are not alone, that you have family beyond these lands and beyond these shores, who are motivated by the same Spirit as you are, who are drawn to the same Christ as you are, who carry pieces of the divine within them in the same way that you do. And the only way that we can get to know God better is by getting to know each other and walking together. So we didn't want to say that via Zoom or via an email or by a tweet. We wanted to say that by our simple presence. You are not alone, and God is with you. You must continue your journey no matter what the obstacles are. We've spent time with some of our Lakota family, and they have the saying, "Mitakuye o yasin." We are all related. My people say, he whānau kotahi tātou. We are one family. So we follow the ancient pathways and we try to renew the connections that our ancestors made. We have an ancestor who had a carved face, who had a tattooed face, who arrived in our lands on the back of a whale. And some of my elders, in their time making these connections, walking these pathways, spent time with some of the First Nations peoples along the west coast of the United States. And there they learned of the story of a man with a carved face, with tattoos on his face, who left Turtle Island on the back of a whale. We remember that person with the name Paikia. His name was Paikia. He was a whale rider. He was also a priest, a keeper of the sacred tradition. When he came to our land, interrupted our prayer traditions and showed us a new way. And in so doing, he became a prefigurement of the arrival of the gospel, of the arrival of the Christ. The first generation of Māori Anglican priests in my country, when asked to explain the theology of the gospel to their people, looked not to England or to Scotland or to Ireland or to Wales, as beautiful as those countries are. They didn't look to Western society. They looked deep within their own tradition, amongst their own ancestry, and they found the Christ waiting. So I think in your journey you have been called to deepen the knowledge of who you are and in your indigeneity, because it is there that God can be found, and it is through that journey that you can liberate others, including the Church of Canada. And we just want to encourage you to not shy away from becoming more of what your ancestors are and more of what you are. The picture you see here is one of our grand churches, embellished with the patterns and the designs of my people. The carvings, the woven panels that you see between the carved posts, all of them are a representation of our theological understanding. It is a deep and powerful theological statement that my ancestors, our ancestors, created as a legacy for us. Our unique response to the gospel is that the gospel made us flourish into creativity. It made our imagination flourish again and soar. And by way of those two things, we gave hope to each other and to our world. So I hope that you flourish, seek ways to flourish, be more indigenous vestments, more singing, dance, take your drums into the church. I don't care what your bishop says, do it. Be more indigenous in every way. Speak your language, let it be heard. Translate your scripture, translate your liturgy. Write your agendas in your own language. Take minutes of your meetings in your own language. Be proudly who you are. But don't forget that our future is not alone, it is together. So our mainstream brothers and sisters, our white brothers and sisters must be part of this conversation. We are not called to flourish without them. But we need to remind them of the beauty of culture. It's beautiful to be English in England. It's beautiful to be Scottish in Scotland. It's beautiful to be Welsh. I carry the name of a Welsh great-great-grandfather, Donald. It's beautiful to be Welsh in Wales. It is beautiful to be First Nation in the great land of Canada. It is beautiful to be Māori in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And through the sharing of our mātauranga, through the sharing of our culture, everybody can participate in that beauty, whether they are of our genealogy or not. That is the single and solitary power of the gospel. One final acknowledgement before we sing the story of Paikia leaving Turtle Island and coming to Aotearoa, New Zealand. Archbishop Chris. Tracy. We want to acknowledge you, Archbishop. We came here to acknowledge you. Archbishop Mark MacDonald is very special to our people because he journeyed with us. And it was just a short 2 years ago that he was able to join via Zoom gathering of our Indigenous Synod and help us with what we were struggling with. So we want to acknowledge Mark. Tēnā koutou. Mark and his family. We will never be in control of how our stories conclude, because these roles, these callings are not a personal possession. They do not belong to us. When you are called to the role, particularly Chris of Archbishop, you are appointed and anointed for a season. And so we have come knowing that whatever the circumstances have been, you now are the one that carries this role for your people. And so we are here to say that we support you, we support the role, we support your people. You are not alone. You have family from beyond these lands and these shores who will journey with you. And we weren't going to say that by email. We were going to turn up and show you by our quiet presence that we mean what we say, and we say what we mean. We have a gift for you as well, Waiponama, from Waiponama, Greenstone, and we'll call upon another of our Māori princesses from the tribe of Ngaitahu, the keepers of the Pounamu. Kirby also has genealogy kinship links back to the Pequot Mashantucket Nation as well. So this is it has double meaning for us, this presentation. Tracy, you don't get to avoid this, my friend. We have something for you as well. We know that behind every mediocre archbishop stands a truly great woman. That's what my wife always tells me. But seriously, we also know that the burdens that Archbishop Chris has been called to carry will not be his alone. They will be shared by you and your family. So we want to acknowledge you and want you to know that you will ever have our prayers. Wāta mai e rua. Archbishop Chris, that's all from us. The Lord bless you, the Lord keep you, the Lord make his face to shine upon you, the Lord lift up his countenance so high above you and give you peace. That's a blessing from the first priest, Aaron, in whose footsteps we follow, and it's a blessing for you, for your family, and for all of you here at Sacred Circle. Nei rata tino mihi rawa tu kia koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, kia ora hoki tātou katoa.
There is a beauty of First Nations in our dance, and I'm reminded of that every year when I get to go home, when I'm able to go home for our powwows, to see the dress, to feel the drums. And I say feel the drums because you feel them in here. And it reminds you of our community. It reminds us of the family. It reminds us of our tie to Mother Earth, to creation. It reminds us of the song that is in each and every one of us, and how we are called to celebrate and live and rejoice in that which is creation and what the Creator has given to each and every one of us. Our songs are those beautiful voices being lifted up in thanksgiving. We hear that in our brothers and our sisters. We hear that in our relatives that have come to visit. And we celebrate our time together. And we are reminded that as a people, that we are not alone. We need to take this message back home to our young people who feel alone, to our community members that have lost hope because they feel alone. I started out my message with being called, we are messengers of peace. As the Father has sent me, so I send you. Peace be with you. May that peace be with us tonight and through the coming days as we celebrate our days together, not only as a community, but as a sacred circle. I thank everyone for today. It was an emotional day, I have to admit. It was a powerful day. And it was wonderfully completed with song and the bringing together of our families. We have a joy now. I'm a story also. I'm a storyteller. So I went on, I think it was on Saturday when we got here, and I went to Gravenhurst, and we had made some phone calls to rent all this wonderful band equipment that you see up here. And so I had put a list, and I just figured, okay, we'll just get the basics because this is going to be quite expensive. Okay, we need a 5-piece kit, drum set, we need electric guitar, bass guitar, we need the amps, we need the speakers, we need the mics, cables, lines, drumsticks. And they said, no problem. Anything else you need, let us know. And I said, okay, thank you. So and they said, do you have an account with us? And I said, no. They said, okay, we'll fix one up when you get here. So did that. Fixed up the account, gave them the credit card. And they said, okay, we'll tally it all up. There you go, just sign right there, and you're good to go. And I looked at it and I said, did you miss a couple numbers? And they said, no. Why? And I said, it's only $318.56. And he said, yeah? Is that too much? I said, we have it for about a week. And he says, yeah? Is it too much? And I said, no. I said, that's it? I was expecting around 3,000. He said, do you want us to charge you that? And I said, no, that's good. I will take it at this deal. And he says, good, because that's the only price we can give you. So we have this wonderful equipment up here, but I will be absolutely honest with you. It has been many, many, many years since I have set up any kind of musical equipment of this degree. I'm going to call upon Nick to come and help me out to get it all set up, as well as anybody else here that has wonderful knowledge of setting up music, the amps, the cables, cords, and lines. And we will, as we can and as we are able, we encourage you to stick around for a while. We're going to sing, we're going to rejoice this night away, and with our gospel jam as you stick around. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So with that, relax. There's some tea, coffee out there. There's some juice. And we'll just make a few quick announcements. I'll hand this over to Donna, who's going to make a few last instructions.
Thank you. Just a reminder, tomorrow morning's agenda. Tomorrow is Red Shirt Day. So bring out your red shirts. After breakfast, you go straight to your gospel-based discipleship talking circles. And you're in your talking circles until break at 10:30, and then come here to Plenary. And we'll continue with our work here. That's where it stands for the start for tomorrow. Any other announcements? Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name's Stephen Siegertz. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I have a friend. Our sister church is St. Barnabas in New Westminster, with the Reverend Emily Smith, who has literally known me since I was 10 years old. She was here for a day, but she had to leave for another job in Edmonton, I believe. But she asked me